aquifer of pure water lay just underground, built up like water in a sponge over thousands of winters. In a few places, it even gushed up to the surface. After World War I, traveling salesmen went from farm to farm selling powerful new turbine pumps. Now farmers could pump as much groundwater as they needed. In 1929, California pulled ahead of Iowa as America's leading farm state, even as drought settled over the valley. Before long, growers had pumped the San Joaquin water table down 10 feet. And by 1930, they had 24,000 turbine pumps on the aquifer, drawing it down to 100 feet below the surface. Deep-rooted oaks on the San Joaquin plains began to die.
"70,000 refugees from the Dust Bowl present a new problem to California. Squatter camps spring up and living conditions alarm the health authorities. These newcomers seek to make a living by following the harvest and working in the fields or at
When growers called for more labor, refugees from the Midwest began their exodus to the Promised Land, to California.
They are almost all of American stock, people driven from their old homes by dust storms, drought, ill health, hard luck.
Some of the most famous photographs ever taken are Dorothea Lange's photographs of the Okies, if you will, the migrants in the Great Depression. What people may not know is that most of those photographs were taken in the San Joaquin Valley of California. That's where it hit. That's where the great population migration was dumped.
Waves of Dust Bowl refugees found farmers leveling new tracts of land. Cheap labor and cheap water were key to the expansion, key to the abundance. What migrants could not see was that growers were pumping the aquifer dry.
They could pump hundreds of gallons a minute out of like a fire hose. There was something like 24,000 pumps, big pumps. The groundwater just disappeared. They overdrafted it. They mined it so fast that the valley subsided.
Portions of the San Joaquin Valley dropped 3 feet.
You're pulling out 100 buckets of water and only a cupful is being replenished currently. That this is a losing deal. There's no question about it.
By the middle of the Great Depression, the Promised Land, California's Great Central Valley, was running out of water. Now, farmers could either limit their pumping and produce less, or they could search for new water.
So that you can look across at the Sierras, and if there is a cloud layer or a cloud formation, you can see through the height. You can see the snow layer just capping the whole top of the mountains that surround the valley floor.
Northern California's worst blizzard, raging for a week without a let-up, buries the Sierra Nevada region in 13 feet of snow.
Every spring, Sierra snowmelt roared down the salmon rivers and out to sea.
Cut off from the outside world by snow-choked highways.
Ebbets Pass, just to the east of the farm counties, once got 73 feet of snow, deepest ever recorded anywhere in the world.
Time in 5 years is famous Donner Trail, where the storm's fury trapped scores of cars.
Only the federal government, which had just conquered the Colorado River, could move the snowmelt to farms across California.
The New Deal came along at an exquisitely opportune time. It was rescue.
Growers turned to Franklin Roosevelt, fresh from the national triumph of Boulder Dam.
Boulder Dam, Nevada, America's newest engineering wonder, is about to be dedicated by the President of the United States.
I have the right once more to congratulate you who have builded Boulder Dam.
Now, Roosevelt and Congress gave California a gift even greater than Boulder Dam, the Central Valley Project.
Here we have the most elaborate irrigation project, public works project ever built, just when it's desperately needed. And if it hadn't been for Franklin Roosevelt, it probably wouldn't have been built, because not many politicians believed at the time that the government ought to be doing this kind of stuff. But he did.
The 11 million tons of this aggregate must somehow be transported from Reading, 10 miles across the wilderness, to the site of the dam.
The Central Valley Project would capture snowmelt from the living rivers and dole it out in summer through a 3,000-mile grid of dams, canals, and reservoirs. It would water an area the size of Lake Michigan. No one had ever built anything like the Central Valley Project. This solution to the growers' overpumped groundwater would be bigger and more complex than Hoover Dam. It would be the biggest public works project since the Great Wall of China. It would be the most expensive waterworks in history. Shasta, the main dam, would be taller than the Washington Monument.
On behalf of the Bureau of Reclamation, I'd like to welcome all of you to Shasta Dam. My name is Sherry, and I'm going to be your tour guide today. Shasta Dam is the second largest concrete gravity-type dam in the United States. Now, this was constructed during the end of the Depression. This gave almost 5,000 people and their families employment. This was a big deal, and people did come from everywhere to get a job. It's amazing to think that there's over 400 feet of concrete above our heads right now.
In 1935, most Americans had never heard of the Bureau of Reclamation.
This is what the dam looks like from the top, coming down.
But over the next half-century, this obscure agency would remake the face of the continent.
We're 400... Whoa! Oh my God! That is amazing!
These giant irrigation projects were made possible by the old Reclamation Act of 1902. Congress had passed the act a quarter century before to stop the sort of land grabs Henry Miller had orchestrated, and to put thousands of new small farms in the arid West.
Go through the headquarters of the Bureau of Reclamation in Washington, you'll see murals all over the place, and they all depict this grand development of water resources and the cultivation of land and the arrival of settlers. New land, all through irrigation, otherwise it wouldn't exist. Those murals are everywhere.
And of course, you're not in the West very long before you realize that the key is water. And I think clearly that the original intent was if we got the water to the land, we could put farmers on it. This was a settling of the West, and that was the best of intents. And in fact, it was written into the law. This was going to be for small farmers. This was going to be for people who farmed 160 acres.
Days after Congress passed the Reclamation Act in 1902, speculators, real estate brokers, and congressmen began their horse trading. Everyone could see that land with water was worth more than land without water, and every senator wanted a water project. The political pork barrel was born.